Okay, Brian McKenzie here with MarcPro. Here's what we're gonna do. We've got a cycle for post running. So if you've gone and run, regardless of how long, and you feel a little beat up or you want to speed up some recovery, here's the fastest way to that we found. Okay, so using this MarcPro, we like to use the high. If you've got the Plus, we're going to use the high settings. Okay, if you've just got the regular MarcPro, this can be done on the low settings, finding the highest possible intensities that you can through the low settings. So with the high settings, and I will go over this in a second, we are going to go run through this protocol. So this is the front. This would be the your anterior side of stuff. This would be your quads. This would be your rectus femoris area, the bulky part of your quads. Find the biggest area. That's great. The second part would be the VMO area. So that would be our first section that we'd be working on. So we'd go A and B and B. So those would be our starting points. Then we would take it off and we would apply it to N-tib, which is the front, the meaty part of the front of your shin. Okay, and then we would go on the bottom of the arch of the foot. Okay, so both sides. So that would be A on here up front, and then A here, and then we'd go B on this side and B on the foot. Okay. The next section would be number 3, and this would be the hamstrings. So we'd take the bulky part of the hamstrings and we'd apply here, and then the bulky part of the gastro. That would be A on one side, A down below on the calf, and then B on the other side and B on the other calf, okay? Here's how the cycles run. We're gonna do 3 by 5 seconds on the high intensity. Okay, we're looking for the intensity of a 5 to 7 for the first one. So number 1 would be the quads that we're working on. So this would look like this. So if I turn on this MarcPro, I will go and choose the high setting, okay, which I'm now set. Then I will start to turn on. And here's what this tends to look like when I turn this on. I'm looking for somewhere between a 5 and a 7. And I'm up at about 7 now. That's a 7. I'm holding for 5 seconds, and then I turn down. Then I come right back, up to a 7, and you'll start to notice that that contraction starts to diminish. And we'd repeat that for 3 rounds, so that was 2. Now we are at 3. And boom, done, 5 seconds, then I'd switch. So I've got all this contraction going on, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna set up for the next part, which would be the N-tib, arch of the foot, N-tib, arch of the foot. I'd go through the same thing. The intensities are a little lower, 4 to 6. Then I'd switch to hamstrings and my calves, which are gonna be back up to a 5 and a 7 because this is a bigger tissue, bigger areas. So we want to get that stuff all kind of cooked up. Then we would go into the low settings. So that would look like this. So now we go to the low settings. So changing this over to low, and the intensity is still in parentheses. Okay. We've also added our hips to this on the back side. So let's first take a look at what we're doing here. So each of these sections is going to be 5 minutes. So you're looking at a 20-minute cycle, okay? You can spend more time on this if you like. If you've got a specific area that's a little bit more beat up, people tend to have either the posterior side of the calves, or, well, the calves are the posterior side, or we've got the N-tib that gets lit up. So whatever's more lit up, even your hamstrings, you can spend more time on. So you're going to go 5 minutes on A1, and then you'll go 5 minutes on A and B2, 5 minutes on A and B3, and then 5 minutes on A and B4. And A and B4 we are looking for the glute med, which is the tissue part just above or just below the hip bone up here. It's the beefy part right above the greater trochanter, the hip bone, and then where your pocket of your jeans would actually be, so your glute max area. So we're trying to get the bulky tissue of those hips, and we're going to try and flush those as well. So we'd set the MarcPro up and on again. This time, instead of being on the high settings, we're coming to the low settings. Then what this would look like is I would turn this up, looking for these somewhere between 6 and 9. I can set it to 9 because I've already gone through. Once you started to exhaust things, you can really get the settings a little bit higher. And what we're trying to do is just get that, get the tissue flushing everything, get that lymphatic system really moving. And as you can see, I'm just starting to flush this quad area, my quads. So I'd spend 5 minutes here. Then I progress through and set up through all the other phases of this for an optimal recovery session with anything run-based.